Hey, what is up, folks? I'm Sam Page, and I'm an artist, I'm a creative, and I'm just learning to be okay. So this is episode 3? Well, I think it's like, it's episode 2, but I did the intro, so I'm gonna count that as episode 3. But this one, I kind of just wanted to, like, sit. I feel like the last one was, I won't say, like, cinematic, but it was, like, it was more of like, changing things and moving things around and stuff like that. And then this one, I just kind of wanted to sit and just like kind of do a process. And then I don't know if I'm going to finish it or not because I also have other things to do today. But just wanted to talk about who I am and what I do, and also what it means to be an artist that doesn't want to participate in like the systems that are already here, if that makes any sense. So basically, I just got this little thing. It's basically like eraser material. It's called Speedy Cut. If you haven't seen it before, it's used usually for printmaking, and I'm just gonna like play around with it and do some stuff. I also have like a camera over here, so like I don't know if you can see all this. So yeah, look around, you'll see stuff, whatever. Yeah. So I basically started. I started making art probably my second year. No. Yeah, probably like my second year of college. I don't know why I'm so flingy, y'all. Probably my second year of college, and it really didn't pick up until I was probably in my last year. And I had to do a project that was basically like a senior project, and they were like, "Oh, everyone kind of has to pick something," and I was like, "Well, what if I did a series of acrylic paintings?" And it started out as a joke. I was like, what if I did a series of acrylic paintings that like discuss some kind of topic, right? And at first I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool, but like I'm not really an artist. I don't really draw, stuff like that. And then I thought about it more, and I was like, oh, but what if like I had been kind of exploring what like gun violence did to communities, or what gun violence did to families and people, stuff like that. So I started making these little little paintings based on like what the other side. So after a person had passed away, what it was like in that space, like what I thought heaven looked like, but also I'm not like a big proponent of like heaven or hell, so like not exactly. But I did that, and I realized that I really do like visual art making, because I went to school for theater. So I hadn't been doing a lot of visual art making, but like I just kind of liked it. So then fast forward to like graduating school, and then like I'm looking for a job, and I find one. This is with an arts nonprofit, and I think that I'm starting to understand a lot of things about myself. And especially during this process, like during this series, I'm starting to understand that I don't want to participate in certain things. I have no desire, really and truly, to be in a museum. I don't have any real desire to make things that make curators like me, because one, I think that the trope of curator now is this usually white, usually male, sometimes like very usually not very nice person. That's kind of the trope, the daydream, the dream I see in my head, nightmare maybe, who just looks at all the things you do, who looks at all the beautiful things that you make, and says, oh, well, we'll take this, but we won't take this. And first of all, I'm not the one. I'm just not the one for a lot of situations. I just am not very good at saving face. I'm not very good at when someone says something that I do not think is true or do not like. I'm gonna tell you about it. And that gets a girl in trouble sometimes, gets a girl in trouble. But I don't have any desire to be a part of like the museum system. What I would rather be doing is helping community centers and art spaces that aren't a part of the traditional museum system create ways to curate and preserve their work. That is what I would rather be doing. I would rather know that my work is staying in the same community that I made it. I don't want it to be in a white person's collection. I just don't. Because Kathy is not going to understand the nuances of a black childhood, really, you know? So I don't want to give my work to someone that's really just not going to understand it. And also is not going to share it with the same community that it's made for. So I don't want to participate in that way. And I think as we've like kind of started to see through the series is that I don't have an anchor practice. And I've been thinking about this system of like anchor practices where like you're known for something. I think that I am known pretty well for like not being known for something. I feel like at this point, like I know that it's hard to pinpoint what I do. But for me, staleness is what I'm more afraid of. I'm afraid to become a mill. I'm afraid to become so predictable that someone can 100 years after my death be like, oh yeah, that's Sam. It doesn't sit right with me. I don't know. But I think what I'm learning in this series is that it's okay. It's okay to know your worth, to know that, because like I said, I have no problem. It's not that I don't want to be curated. It's not that I don't want to have things that last a really long time, things that last even past me. You know, it's not that I don't want those things. It's not that I don't want to be celebrated. But I don't want to be celebrated in the traditional way, because museums are, one, very elitist and they're very closed off. They're literally closed off. That's the whole point. And I wouldn't be as authentically celebrated, I feel, if it was celebrated through the lens of non-black people, of non-people of color. I wouldn't be as the type of celebrated that I would want. And I mean, with your art, the thing is, your art, you're making it for you. So if it is not what you want, if it's not even talked about the way that you want, it's your narrative to change. I don't have to release certain things that I am not, that I don't believe in. Not that are not good, or, you know, because I think that everything that you make is going to be good. No matter if it's your first time making it or your 101st time making it, it's going to be good, but is it going to represent who you are? And I think that's something that I'm learning, that I don't have to just release things because my job tells me, or because a curator or a more established artist tells me. I don't have to do that. And that was real scary. I mean, like, I'm saying it is real scary, because there's this thing that a lot of like artists go through, at least I went through, where you're so afraid that if you don't take every call, that there won't be any more calls. Like, if I don't say yes to this thing now, then that's the last chance that I had. And it's a lie. I must say, it is a lie. I'm figuring that out. But especially like right after I got out of school, there was this like, you know, who was going to hire a fresh out of school theater major who likes to dabble in art, like who likes to dabble in visual art. And because of that, I was like, oh, well, I have to take whatever jobs come to me, I have to take those. I have to do the things that people want me to do, because if I don't do those, then they're just never going to I'm never going to have that chance again. And I can honestly say that I've really figured out that I make the rules and I make the opportunities. I'm making an opportunity right now. Let's be honest. Nobody has to tell me. No one had to give me permission to turn on this camera. Well, no one had to give me permission to get my boyfriend to turn on his camera, because it is he's more of the setup man. But no one had to tell me to do this. Like, this is something that I can do that doesn't have to be a part of someone else's grand dream. It's my dream, and I'm having a good time, honestly. Yeah. So yes. And obviously, I'm like jumping around. Sorry if this is like kind of rambly, but like, I was just like, listen, we gonna turn the production quality up, but we're gonna be comfortable today. We're just gonna be comfortable. So graduated school, got this job, a job that is something, and I started to learn quickly that I didn't want to participate. But I didn't want to make someone else's dream come true. I just didn't really want to make someone else's dreams come true. And that's a lot of what working for someone is. I know, like, when, in a corporate job, at the end of the day, your station in life, if you are not at the very top, is to make the person at the very top money, is to make their dream come true. And as selfishly as it sounds, I don't want to make dreams that I don't believe in come true. And it's like, and I get it. Like, obviously, that is a very... I want to say that it's not necessarily selfish, because the thing is, if it is something that I believe in, when a collective believes in something, it is the collective's job to create it, to make it happen. But once you start to realize, once that kind of like shroud is lifted, where you realize that everyone's dream is not the same, and you kind of get away from this idealic understanding of like, oh, we're all artists, we're all working towards the same end goal. You start to realize not everybody is working towards the same end goals. I feel like especially in art, in any art, art is such a subjective thing. Art is also such an individualistic thing. What I understand as art is not what everyone understands as art. But I start to realize that it's okay to say, oh, our dreams aren't aligning. We're not aligning. And in order for you to make your dream come true, I'm going to step away, because I'm not productive with you. I'm not helping. I'm just not helping. So, hard lesson. Truly. It's a lot. Like, I'm also only 23. So, like, here's a guy. I am 23 now. I have established a little 0.3% of who I am. Really and truly. I mean, that's kind of why I started making this series. But I've established a good bit of who I am. And what I want to figure out is how I'm doing that. Because it's always just been kind of sporadic. It's been like, oh, you going through like a quest. Okay, now listen, I don't play video games for real, but listen. So you know how you're like going through a quest, and you find like a side thing, and you're like, oh yeah, of course, like, oh well, that's cool, like that's something I didn't think about. But yeah, I think that I am figuring out how to be okay through understanding who I am, but also who I'm not. So that's hard. That's hard. And obviously, I didn't plan a script for this. I was just like, hey, I want to just like talk and sit and do like a random thing. Neighbors. But yeah, I mean, it's a journey. I don't want to say it's a climb, but it's a climb. Yeah, I don't know. I'm learning so much about myself. Obviously, one, we're in a panini press, so I've had nothing but learning time, which is good and bad in a lot of ways. But I think in the time that I've had to myself most of 2020 and seems like possibly most of 2021 at this point, I've started to realize that I know more about what I want and what I don't want than I would like to admit. I am particular. I am. I think it's always this thing. I think especially being just like being a person of color, but also just like a queer person and things like that. It's so like looked down upon sometimes when you're like, hey, you can't do this to me. Like you just can't. I'm not going to be okay with this. You can't say certain things. You can't treat me in certain ways that you would maybe even treat other people. And you get, as soon as you do that, this kind of trope of, oh, this person is I mean, it's my channel. I can say bitchy. I mean, I feel like I can. I mean, it's a dictionary. But you get that from other people that don't understand why you aren't just cool with stuff, But I've learned that it's okay to not be cool with stuff. I'm okay with being the person that's like, oh no, babe, like let me tell you a secret. If you talk to me like that, I'm gonna slash your tires, because it all just goes back to like knowing my worth as a person and like not knowing that worth for a while, and of course still working on it because obviously still a work in progress. I'm making a whole series about how to figure out how to be okay, so I feel like we are both on the same page of I'm not good, or not as good as I can be. But I think we are in a space now where it's okay, one, to rest, and two, to say, like, take real stock of like, oh, like I'm okay with this and I'm not okay with this. This is the perfect time to do it. I mean, you can look at yourself in the mirror every day in this panini press and be like, you know what, Thursdays, we're not self-deprecating on Thursdays. That's all. Like, it doesn't have to be like some sweeping changes, a decree or anything. But also, if you need a decree, like, that's the thing. Like, for me, I work very physically. I think very physically. So I'm a person that's like, oh, well, what if we all just walked around with like red, yellow, and green cards to be like, oh, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling this way. I love a list. I love the theatrics. I love the drama, honey. Like I love that. It's really cool. I think that it's cool that we have the wherewithal to be able to say and explain explicitly what we want and don't want. So, I mean, yeah, use it if you need to. I don't know. Hold on, coffee, Sean. I wonder if that's gonna pick up really hard on this, like, that slur. Probably. Probably. Yeah, but, again, this has no real plan, this video, but I just wanted to, like, for 15-20 minutes tops, just have a frank conversation about, like, just updates on where Sam is right now. And do a very small process.